People still ask me why I decided to go back to school during a pandemic. All of the classes are online, so I'd basically just be sitting in my dorm all day, right? For me, it was more about getting in that work environment. On campus, I can get in a headspace that I can never quite maintain at home. A place where I know I'm responsible for myself, so I feel more inclined to put myself into action. This means doing my homework, doing laundry regularly, and providing meals for myself. Independence motivates me to get things done. There's also the upside of not having to worry about exposing my family to COVID if I'm not at home. When I first came back to campus, this is all I thought I'd be doing. Homework, meals, and laundry, which I thought would be fine. It wasn't until I was offered a new job position at the school, since I was training for another position and knew some staff, that this all changed. Meal delivery. You might ask, wait, there's food service on a university campus? And usually the answer is no, but this semester we were being tested regularly for COVID. What do you think happens to students if they get a positive test? The school can't just make someone with COVID-19 move home, right? Especially if they live far away. That would be extreme, right? The solution was to use specific halls and apartments as positive quarantine zones in which the students would quarantine and isolate themselves until their symptoms went away and they received a negative test. The only problem is, how do these students get their meals? The university's residential life group decided to reach out to some individuals somewhat familiar with their policies to quickly help build a quarantine and isolation team and get meals to these students. For the first few weeks, the team consisted of me and one other student who were quickly trained to get the meals to all of the students in isolation. The basics of the job had us picking up the meals from the campus dining hall and delivering them with a cart or van, depending on which building they were in, to the students' doors. We'd knock on the doors, and once we'd moved a good distance away, the students would open their doors and grab their meals. Then we'd hold office hours for a bit in a residential hall where we could answer the phone for questions students had, update information on which buildings were being occupied, and make sure no students left their quarantine. This new experience required a lot of problem solving since it was an entirely new position and taught me many things about people and organizations. First of all, it can be difficult to spread the word. Although students got emails telling them to move into quarantine, there were still a lot of unanswered questions once they moved in. How do they get meals specifically safe for their allergies? What do they do if their shower isn't working? How do they find our phone number? Or who do they contact if we aren't working, etc.? We created posters, added things to emails, had direct communication with the dining hall, answered calls, and more. Since a lot of the residential life staff was working remotely, there were some logistical problems we had to bring up that might be easily overlooked if you aren't on campus to see it, such as what to do if a student isn't taking their meals and they start piling up in front of their door, or what a student does with their trash. Secondly, this experience has taught me how necessary and important this job was. If it weren't for us, other staff that had other positions to fulfill already were taking hours out of their days to feed these students. It was no simple task to be housing all these people and delivering food to their doors at every meal. Thirdly, parents worry. A lot. Of course they do. Their kids are going to be in quarantine housing for 2 weeks. We did our best to try to communicate and explain to parents what procedures were for dropping off care packages or medicine for their kids and more. This made me realize how much of a problem-solving experience this pandemic must be for all colleges and people all across the world. Every organization must have had similar struggles and adjustments, and it's an extremely unique phenomenon working in this sort of essential last-minute job position at this time. The whole university really had to come together during the first semester of this job position to solve problems and answer questions that we never had to ask before. Dining, for example, had to frequently talk with residential life, much more than they usually might. For me personally, though, throughout all of this, I saw a true sense of community. People came together to help each other out and help students in need. I came to campus to do homework alone in my room, and instead I made connections with many different branches of the university and people for a good cause. If this pandemic has taught me anything, it's that although we might be far apart right now, we can still be present for each other to help, just in a slightly different way.